The Garvey Super Value Senior Hurling Championship will puck off, of course, next Friday evening at Austin Park when Ballyhaig take on last year's beaten finalist Ballyduff. And it's the first of 3 games at the weekend as it really gets underway. But it'll be the beginning of a journey, I suppose, that we'll see one team capture the Neil's Flynn Cup and I suppose in many ways write their own piece of history as they become the latest players to win a Senior County Hurling Championship medal. Now, it's one of the hardest medals to win, I've been told, in Kerry sport. Such is the competition and the tradition of hurling in the county. And despite what people from outside the county think of hurling at the times, it is held in huge regard within the county. So what's it like to win one of them? What's it like to win a few of them? What's it like to win 8 of them maybe? Well, I'm delighted to say that we've assembled a panel over the next hour and a half of former players who, I suppose, between them can reveal some of the answers to those questions. And tonight we decided to look back, I suppose, before we look forward to this year's championship and maybe try and capture some of the moments that probably helped inspire, I suppose, some of those talking off in this year's edition of what really is Kerry's toughest competition. I'm delighted to be joined James McCarthy, our own James McCarthy, of course, you'll hear him, and Sean Flaherty, the man who just walked straight into the live studio. Much like he played, I'd imagine, James.
In and out. You didn't see him coming. You wouldn't see him coming.
Well, we didn't see him coming. Anyway, straight in. Come here, we started with you, Sean. Describe, before we get into talk about Lixnaw and winning in 83 and 85 and all those things, what was it like to win it? What was it like to get it off your back? I mean, you were the guys that came on the back and stopped Causeway from winning 5. I mean, did you know you were causing much damage at the time when you were stopping them?
I don't know about that, Donal, but I suppose being from Lixnaw, prior to 1983, we'd only won 2 championships and had been beaten in a lot of finals and things like that, but that's no good show. But I suppose the first final that I really remember was 1966. It's probably an unforgettable one in that Ballyduff beat Lixnaw. Lixnaw had Tom Bon McCarthy sent off, and there was a bit of mayhem afterwards and things like that. And that had been Lixnaw's first final with a few years. And then we were the next bunch to come on the way, and we made the final of 82. And I suppose 16 years without making an appearance in the final, like, there was definitely a weight in the back. And I suppose we had opened the field that year, officially opened the field. We did a big job on the field. And I suppose when you do a job like that, there's great community spirit. And the GAA is the one organisation. It embodies all that. And everybody comes around the GAA, the local team involved. And this was a big occasion for us. But it probably came too soon for us in that our focus was probably on the opening of the pitch, having a good year, and we met a fantastic Causeway team in the final, and look, if we had John Kiley and Paul Kinnock with us, we wouldn't have beaten that Causeway team that year, and we probably wouldn't prepare properly. To get to the final was the thing for us at the time. But I suppose, look, it's like everything else, if you don't learn from that, you're going no place in the game. And I suppose, look, monkey see, monkey do. We saw what Causeway were doing, so we said, look, next year we're going to be prepared with these guys, and we were. Mm-hmm. So we.
What were Causeway doing at the time that stood them out in particular? I mean, you're looking over the shoulder, you're seeing them win 3-4 in a row. Is it fitness? Is it? I know strength and conditioning was hardly a thing back in those days. But what were they doing that excelled them?
Look, they were ahead of the pack in that they had 15 good hurlers. Like, they hadn't a weak link. Whereas other clubs at the time, you'd be sticking a fella in here and saying, look, he might do a job for us. And I think he probably wouldn't do it when he came to it. But that's what you were hoping for, because they didn't have that weak link. But we probably ambushed them in. They beat us in 82 in the final, but 83 we said, look, actually in 82 we were beaten in one final. One game we were beaten, the county final. We won all leagues, we won everything. And typical, of course, what happened, our 3 selectors got dumped at the AGM.
They got the vote of confidence today.
They got the player, like, you know, look, the players wasn't to blame at all. Like, it was the selectors because we didn't win the county final. Selectors dumped.
And the corner forward.
Yeah. So, but we decided then that, look, we're going to right cut it the next year. So, cause we were playing, I think it was Abbeydorney in the first round, and we were playing Ballyhaig. So we said what we'll do is hoping, of course, and thinking that we would beat Ballyhaig, is we're going to video Causeway's game. And this was when they saw Causeway's game being videoed, they thought it was Causeway that were doing it themselves. But,
okay.
But we videoed the game in here, and but we barely got out of jail. Ballyhaig were leading us 5 points with about 3 minutes to go, and we came back and we got a goal and 3 points, and we won by a point. And God be good to John Joe Sullivan, who was the Lord Mayor of Ballyhaig, like unofficially. But John Joe was mad into the hurling, like, and all that year, like, he was the local correspondent for the Notes and the Kerryman. And when we won, it was a case of Lixnaw won our championship, he said. But we definitely prepared for. We picked our players. We did the right matchup for Causeway, and we were up 2-10 at 34 points at half time, and Causeway were going for 5 in a row.
Yeah. Speaking about the video, I mean, I presume that was kind of a unique enough thing to do at the time, was it? You know, to video and go back and watch a game.
It was. But look, the way we felt, look, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always did. But that was our motto, like that. We had to do something. If we approached Causeway the same as we did the previous year, we'd no chance. So we switched our team around, and we had the surprise element, and we were up 272 points after, I'd say, 15-16 minutes. And that put them under pressure. Like, they couldn't come back after that. But look, had we not done that, we wouldn't have beaten them, because in fairness, they were a superb team.
They were a massive team. We have one of them appearing around the corner now very shortly, and we'll see, will you be as honest as you are now?
I would say, I suppose, in relation to that, like, we were lucky too, unfortunate in that we had a trainer at the time, like, he was chairman of the club as well, Frank Thornton, and Frank, he was a visionary, like, and he could cajole fellas, and he'd get the best out of them, and he knew who to hype up, and he knew who to calm down. And if you wanted to train, if you were feeling a bit tired on the night, if you studied to Frank, no problem. Like, he was a player's man, he was a player's manager. Like, it was a trainer at that time, it's manager now, but he was very good. He had a great way with him, and he still has to this day. He's probably, I hope he's listening, and he wouldn't be expecting these words from me, like, but he was very good, in fairness to him.
After how many 50 years later, you tell him he's very good, isn't it?
It took a long time.
We couldn't tell him before now. He'll think it's old age now.
Probably didn't think you said it at all. Come here to me. Something else unique with yourself, of course, apart from Lixnaw winning in 83 and you won again in 85. I've learned. I'm doing my history now fairly well. But your father won 10.
Yeah, my father did. My father won 10 with Crotta, like...
Do they count now with Crotta?
You see, the problem is that if your father plays with a team and then you play with a different team, I suppose you always go to and you want to beat that team.
Right. Okay.
and that's the psyche, like.
Yeah. But 10 is amazing.
Yeah, he captained them 4 times.
Yeah. So, like, Crotta were flying in the 40s, like, I mean, they were gathering for fun, really.
They were, and they were very hard to beat in finals. When they got into finals, they invariably won them. They won, I think it was a Crotta, they won 8 of them, and it was the Pierces, I think, it was a Crotta-Kilflynn combination or something like that. They won 2, but it was unique, like, to win so many in such a short space of time.
And of course, you passed the winning gene to your son.
Yeah, I don't need the one son, I need the one, but he won 4 then afterwards.
Did he get 4?
Yeah, he got 4, so
he was twice as good as you, and your father was 5 times as well.
You're in the middle, so...
when I'm 85, I'd be a great player, but the older you get, the better you get, like, it's always the case, isn't it?
Come here, speaking about great players, there's a man beside you. You both Captain Kerry, did you?
Yeah.
Fair play to you. That's a big compliment. And you both played for Kerry, and of course you both saw your teams win county championships. James, you have 8?
8, yeah.
You couldn't find them this evening.
You were laughing earlier. They are in the tin in the loft. My wife keeps telling me bring them down. We have to do something with them. I said I will when I finish playing. That's my excuse.
He has 8 senior championship medals and they're in the loft.
It's not the middle.
No,
it's the Kilmoyley.
The first one was up in the mantelpiece for years, but then thankfully they started gathering and they can't keep 8 little loose ones there. But like Shawnee says, your first one, you do have to change your mentality. You have to find, actually, you know what you got to do? You got to learn how to win. We didn't know, and probably Lixnaw themselves when they did that video, right, how do we actually win this final? What do we need to change in our psyche, maybe change in our makeup, change in the way we do our team, change positionals? Like, we were lucky enough, like the lads at Frank Thornton, we had probably John Myler came in with us, and just the outlook was different. Mm-hmm. There was a different setup, and he saw things in players saying, I know, like I played most of my first few years and we didn't win championships as a forward. I failed miserably, but then I was converted to a back. But now I'm getting older, I'm back and forwards again. So
but of course, that's an interesting point, because obviously I think James McCarthy played his first one and he won one. But you lost a good few before you won.
An awful lot, yeah. I started, like, it's probably sad now, but this is my 30th year playing senior hurling. I played when I was 18 back. I played when I was 18 back in 93. So that was my first year. And what a baptism I got. I was running around after Brendan Sullivan, who was one of the best players in Kerry at the time and best players we've had in Kerry for a long number of years, and Bellahaig in their pomp. So I said to him, I even touched it. I didn't even see the ball. I saw Brendan Sullivan, his bootlaces, and that's all I saw. Nothing else. He was just gone. And after that, we lost a lot right up to 2001, and then we kind of got a run. Like, that was our first year. Like, we won matches, yes, but we never got over the line.
Yeah.
We were always beaten maybe by a pint, 2 pints here and there. We were never destroyed, but just didn't, whatever it was. Maybe there was players enough there, good enough, just didn't know how to win.
Speaks about the first win, so, because I mean, 71, you won, and I had those guys on one night, and they celebrated that fantastic. Of course, they beat Abbeydorney, who are coming in around the corner to us now quite shortly. But speaks about the first one. Getting to the final first, James, maybe. Can you remember?
Get the final, exactly, because we got to a semi-final one year and thought we were, I said, great, we're in a chance here. We actually met Causeway, and Causeway beat us. And the danger was, and the problem was, maybe like Shawnee said earlier, we went and watched them in their quarter-final, and they were terrible. Came into the semi-final, they blew us away. Just blew us away. We had no answer for them. I can be honest about it and say we got a couple of scores back in the end, but they were always a better team. They were better than us, and that kind of knocked us back a bit. But then when Myler came in, we kind of gathered ourselves again, gathered a few players. We had a good mix.
Was Myler a big name back at that time, or was he just coming on the scene?
He was, he was with Kerry when they beat Watford, so like he was known, and like he probably didn't know much about Kilmoyley himself until Joe Welch and Christy Welch brought him into our club and said, "Look, come down, see what's going on, like, and see, can you do something for us?" And that's basically what it is. Can you do something for us, really? Because at that stage we were kind of like, we need something here. We need a head doctor. We need something. Something's got to change here because it's not happening. We had 30 years. It's an awful drought, like Shawnee's talking about the drought, and you can feel it. And like, just like Shawnee said about the field, we actually developed our field in 2001 as well. It was just such a coincidence that Shawnee said it now. We spent huge money and huge time and people in the club, and everyone was around it, and the whole club lifted, and this man came in and lifted it further. And so the whole thing was, we were actually on a high, and just lucky enough I got over Bellahaig in the final by 1 point. That very good Bellahaig team that had won the championships through the 90s, like, in fairness, they had been champions the year before as well in 2000. So we were lucky to get over the line that day. But once you win the first one, then boom, it's like you turn on a switch. You now know how to win. And we carried on for 4 in a row, then it was excellent. And then after that, then I suppose we were beaten.
Don't be showing off now, don't be showing off. Four's enough, we'll talk to you in 4 seconds. We'll take a break.
Coming home.
Back on Terrace Talk, I tell you one thing, it's like a dressing room at County Championship weekend or something. That we've been joined by 2 more. James McCarthy's been shoved over to the corner because nobody likes to show off with here at County Championship medals. But I'm delighted to be joined by Paddy Walsh, Causeway, 4 in a row team. And he's won another sneaky one, which we'll talk about in a second. And we'll talk about the sneaky one first, because that's quite important, because Abbeydorney are the Division 1 champions. They're coming in with a good bit of form. The last time they won, though, was 1974. I'm delighted to have the captain, Tony Behan. Does it feel like 1974?
Not really, But I couldn't match the last speaker there, who is playing for 30 years.
That's right, yeah. Well, he was hanging around for 30 years. I mean,
playing is a kind of loose term, I suppose.
Talk to us about 74. Well, actually, go back to 71 first, because Abbeydorney were in that final. Kilmoyley pinched it off them, and maybe lead on to 74.
We had a very good team in 71. We actually had a team at least as good as 74, I think, in 71. And Kilmoyley came up kind of the back door, I think, at the time. I think they played junior or something.
Junior first, that's right. Yeah.
So we kind of underestimated those a small bit. But then Declan Lovers was playing with them, like, at the time, and I mean, you couldn't underestimate any team he was playing with. We lost it, and we were feeling terrible after losing it, because most of us thought this was the last chance. We had a good few fellas who were well up around the 30 mark at the time, and obviously they were feeling that it was their last chance. So when we got a shot at it again in 74, we were pretty determined to win at that time, and we would have been much more ruthless in 74 than we were in 71, because it was definitely the last stand, and that was a good final in 71. We could have won it. We probably should have won it. We didn't.
Yeah.
And we were still thinking the last championship we won before that was in 1913.
Yeah,
and the two before that were back in the 1800s.
Yeah. It's amazing to think that you've only won 4, and the one that you won in 74, it ended a 61-year wait for one, like, which is, my God, seems like a lifetime. 74, unusual enough, you played Austin Sachs in the final.
We did. Well, we really won the county championship, I think, in the quarter-final. We beat a fabulously good Ballyduff team at that time. They were after winning the championship, I think, the year before, and they had John O'Grady back with them at this stage, and Ogie Moran was playing the same day as well. It was the only match I think he played with Ballyduff, and he was a very, very good hurler, and we beat them in an extremely tough match in Austin Dax Park, and once we beat them, we felt that we had a good chance of winning it. But we went on, and we did win it.
Yeah.
It was fabulous to win it.
We'll come back and talk about the winning of it after. But of course, the man beside you played some small part in that game as well. Was it in 74?
That's in 71, no.
Oh no, but in 74.
That's why they didn't win it.
Oh.
That explains that part.
We have the reason. Write it down.
You weren't old enough.
I played up to the final, but I was dropped for the final.
Oh, controversial.
And
rightly dropped, wrongly dropped. Rightly dropped.
I was dropped. I came on as a forward actually.
Yeah.
But it was too late. They were expecting too much from me.
There was no 3 goals in the locker.
But we went to 74, and I suppose, you met the likes of Niall Sheehy was after.
Oh, playing, yeah.
Peyton Lixnaw, he got 2 goals with it.
He did, yeah.
And he was playing the backs, he started in the backs, he came down the forwards.
He did.
But he started in the forwards against us. But he got
everything.
He got no goal that year. And I think the funny incident about that game is in the latter end we were up 8-9 points, I suppose. And I was going out with the ball, and Niall tapped me in the ankle. Cute. So I was passing back into the goals, and I said, "You want to be careful where you're hitting." And he put his hand up my head and he said, "Listen, young man," he said, "I played in pitches where you wouldn't believe if you paid." So he put me back in my perch.
He put you back in your corner. But of course, you went on to win it. And then unusually enough for you, because I'll jump from your connection to Causeway. You kind of went home, did you? You went back home, or did you not go home, or did you move home, or you move out of home?
I was living in Causeway.
Oh yes, okay. Very, very cleverly answered. But you were part of the 4 in a row team.
Yeah.
I mean, coming into that Causeway team, obviously we spoke to the boys about winning their first one. Can you remember the first one with Causeway on that run?
I can remember 78 as well, where we were robbed by a referee. Newcastle West. What's his name?
You got no free with a few minutes to go.
No, we got actually. It was worse than that. We got 3 goals, and he allowed the goals. He allowed the player to go forward with the ball. He got 3 goals, and then he just allowed the goal and gave frees instead.
Oh God!
And we were beaten 9 points to 6.
All right, tight enough.
So then 79.
It all fell together in 79 for you, didn't it?
The what?
It all fell together in 79 for you.
Yeah. Well, there was I feel that it was the best team that ever represented. We came out of Kerry.
Okay.
Every one of them played with Kerry, every one of the team they all played with Kerry. Modestly, he was training us like a great trainer. Same with this fellow training us in Abbeydorney, and they got great respect from the players, and you went on from there.
Yeah. Like to win 4 in a row, and James has won 4 in a row as well. I mean, you kind of must keep the team bond good, obviously, and keep yourselves strong, and there's no falling out, or there's no fellas fighting with each other, or is it the way that fellas are so competitive?
If we don't have fighting, we'll win no match.
I was just going to say that's part of it. That is part of it.
There's always fighting in our training, mate.
Yeah. And is that fighting with fellas kind of coming on looking to take your place because it's kind of a winning team?
Oh no, just
good belting.
Yeah.
Do you have good belting in Kilmoyley?
Preparing fellas, we always said, you get them used to it. You're not going to get a soft inside in sticks. So why should you give them soft in your own pitch?
Exactly.
Just because they're on your own team.
Yeah.
Do you take a soft next now?
I'll tell you now.
Well, actually, you weren't too soft because you stopped the 4 in a row team for winning 5.
We did, and as I said earlier, like that.
We have to bring that up.
It was a great team too, and it was great satisfaction seeing Paddy going back to the net picking it out, because it was seldom he was picking it out now, in fairness to him.
He scored goals that day.
We did, Paddy.
Did you hate the ball going past you, Paddy?
Of course you did.
Yeah.
I think it was you'd be down a leg. A goalkeeper is either a hero or a villain.
Yeah. There's no in between,
There's no
really.
in between for a keeper,
Yeah.
like.
You don't have an average game. You have a great game, or you made a mistake.
Either a villain or a hero.
Yeah. Tony, talk to us about the heroes of 74, and let's go back to Abbeydorney, because I suppose while I'm drilling down Abbeydorney, that you haven't won since 74. You're in the middle of a drought, but it's not a drought because you didn't win from 61 years previous to that. But yet you produced loads of great hurlers in between and over the time, and it is hurling country too.
It is, yeah. We've had some very good hurlers in between. People like, I suppose, Nicholas Scollard would be one of them. Walker.
Rashlands and Aldi.
All those, yeah. Yeah, they were very good hurlers. Dermot Connor and Jerome Donovan and fellas like that as well. You know, nearer to our time, they were playing in 71, they weren't playing in 74. In 74, I suppose, well, Tom Lyons got the Player of the Year anyway, that time. And whether he deserved it that year or not was one thing, but he certainly deserved it overall because he was, the outstanding player in Abbeydorney. He didn't have a wonderful year in 74 because he was ill for quite a bit of it. Brendan Keane was a beautiful hurler, absolutely, purist, as good as you'd find in any county. James, I suppose my cousin James Behan, he was very, very good. Who else was there? Francie Donovan had come on at that stage, and he played with Kerry quite a lot afterwards.
Jack, yeah.
And the Jack Condon, we couldn't forget Jack. Jack got 3 goals in the county final. He actually got 4, and one was disallowed. And he got them all in about the first 10 minutes. And he, for the rest of his life, he boasted that that he just didn't win one county championship. He said he won 25, one for every one of the. So who were playing in the team, and again he said if the long fella who was Tom Carney playing full forward, Tom Carney was about 6'3", Jack was about 5 feet, and if the long fella come out of his way, he said he had a 4th one and maybe even a 5th one, and he said this until the day he died, and he was a lovely hurler, a very good hurler, and he was real wiry, like about 5 feet tall.
I don't think he had the ball in his hand once in the 74 county final. He pulled in everything, like.
Wow.
And if he was out before you for the ball, he'd wait until you come out. He would.
He'd say hello to you.
Yeah. He would say hello to you too. He's dead. God mercy on him. I visited him a few times when he was in home, and he wouldn't really talk to you unless you talked about all the fellas he knocked out during his life. And I can remember at least 2 occasions, when he knocked people out on the throw-in. So I played centre field for a couple of years with him.
He kept his notches on his.
He did.
Come here to me. Winning 74 and going back to Abbeydorney after winning it, I mean, like, they have a 30-year wait. You had a long enough wait as well.
29.
Yeah, but going back, like,
that was fantastic, of course.
What's it like? I mean, your parents, your friends, your brothers, your cousins, your neighbours.
It just wasn't that the team had a good spirit. There was a great spirit in the whole community, and I remember going back in with a cup up and sitting up in the bonnet of somebody's car. It could be my own car. You could sit in bonnets that time because they were strong and they were dinted anyway, so it didn't make much difference, And it was a great time, yeah. It was fabulous. And talking about winning championships, if you win one, you could win a couple. I think we could have won the following year if we just had the same desire to win. If we'd won in 71, we wouldn't have won in 74. Let's put it that way. We wouldn't have the same.
You'd be all retired.
We probably would, yeah.
You got your one and got.
And we'd be still celebrating, which happened too,
Sean, 83 winning with Lixnaw. What was the celebrations like then?
It was absolutely crazy because all I remember the local publican Bill O'Connor, Billy as we used to call him, God be good to him, he's gone now as well, but he said he started complaining after 3 nights that all the drink he brought in for Christmas was all gone. So it was 3 days and 3 nights in his bar, and then we started moving out for another 4 or 5 nights. But it was a week solid, and then who got married? Pat McMahon got married at the end of the week, and that was the first one.
You only had my waddy then, is it?
Moss McKenna was his best man, and Moss's eye was black closed because he had been in the wars with Joe Welch from Kilmoyley in the county final. And when you went to war with Joe, like, you were going to come out with him after anyway.
Was Moss captain, was he?
Moss was captain, yeah. Moss was captain.
And you had another Moss in 85?
Moss had in 85 then, and that was a local derby, and for Lixnaw people, I suppose, we'd waited 29 years years, and they were delighted that we won the one. But if we had lost the Craft in the county final, then we could have caught the medals, I'd say, and thrown them into the river briquettes, because there'd be nothing taught of them. But local derby like Lixnaw Craft, it was tribal warfare. Yeah. But thankfully we came out to the right side of it. That day now Todd was superb for Craft as well. Todd Nolan, God be good to him as well. And I suppose one of those things that happened, which was a rare thing, after county finals, some of the Craft players came down to Lixnaw on the Monday night, and the Lixnaw players caught Todd out in the middle of the street and took him up on their shoulders into the local bar. Wow. Which it was lovely to see. Like, the match was over and we were all friends after the match.
Yeah. Come here to me, James McCarthy, rivalry. There's some teams you meet an awful lot and you're playing them all over the place. There's some teams you probably don't meet as much. Kilmoyley, who are the team that you say, God, we have to win this one?
I suppose you look at Causeway at the minute. Between Causeway and Kilmoyley, we've won the last 4. We've won 2 and Causeway won 2, and it's... But I kind of, the way I've always looked at it, I have always looked at it since I started playing is Abbeydorney. They were my benchmark. Now, no disrespect to any other club, but when we won the 4 in a row, if we didn't beat Abbeydorney, they would have won 4 in a row. And that's the way because they were that good. Paddy, the lads will tell you, they were that good. There wasn't a puck of a ball between us. Like, so it's you have to gauge yourself of someone like there. That's why they have 25 titles. We have 26 a minute, like, we just one ahead.
Well, you remember that.
I had to throw that in, but that's not a cut-off team either. That's why they're up there. Yeah. You're a good team. You're not up on top of the table for being a bad team. Mm-hmm. But like we're always been accused of being a bit arrogant. You've heard that before. Like, but it's you go into a game, if you don't think you can go in and win, stay at home. Mm-hmm. Wow. I have an attitude like that. Just don't. And then whatever's got to be done. That's my attitude. Whatever's got to be done on the field, and you walk off, like the lads will tell you, walk off, and like Paddy says in training, you'll kill a fella, whatever, and you have a few clatters off each other, and that's it. The field is there, the white lines are there. Walk off, take off your helmet, put on your hurling, and away you go. Go away home.
Paddy, Causeway, who were the fellas you had to beat?
Who were the what?
Who were the fellas you had to beat?
Abbeydorney.
Okay. I think Paddy's never going to get a lot of love here tonight.
We beat him in 81 final.
Yeah.
With 14 men for the most of the game. And for the first time Abbeydorney were beating the final since 1955.
Mm-hmm. Wow. 55 was amazing because they were the first team. I don't know if they were the first team to win the County Championship, but they were the first team that went out of Kerry, and they represented Munster, and they won the All-Ireland in 1891 or 2, something like that, right? But the gas thing about it
was before our time.
It was before our time. We were reading the books rather than writing them that time. But the one thing about it is that they had to wait till 1955 to win their second one.
Is it true?
Yeah, so they had a huge
long time
wait for a team that went out and won the All-Ireland for Kerry, and they had the history and the culture and the whole lot.
If we go back to 74, it was Ogie Morton that actually won it for us. Because we had an illegal player.
Right, okay.
And they have objected to us. And we counter-objected to Ogie Morton. And Ogie Morton was playing minor football at Kerry. So they couldn't.
But you back that middle.
He only won 4 minutes. No. Don't take the only minute 21 off him.
The player we had he was from Kilkenny. He was a young fella working in Abbeydorney. He had played Kilkenny minor the year before. I wouldn't classify him as being illegal.
He could hurl like.
Well, I mean, he was okay. He was good. He was worth his place.
He was black and amber anyway. He was black and amber.
He was worth his place. But actually, we had Donal Barry for the same place the same year, and he had played in the 71 final in that position. Tracy was the guy's name. Nice hurler. He was most valuable at training in that he kind of did something to ease us from playing backs and forwards, or playing it the wrong way around. We would knocking chips off each other playing backs and forwards, and it wasn't useful to us for hurling. Watching a couple of matches that Abbeydorney played in the last couple of weeks, and at half time, even the fellas down numbers 28 and 29, 2 fellas standing out in the field and they're lashing the ball to each other and they're catching it and sending it back, and they're well able to hit the ball now. we wouldn't have to hit the ball at all. I remember we played Killarney in one year, and they had put the goalie
Johnny
Cullity full back, and he used to take about 4 pucks of the ball to get the ball up to Johnny Cullity, but he'd send it back down to us in one. He was a very, very good hurler.
Wow.
Excellent hurler, and but he was well able to strike the ball. We had a few fellas who were good at hitting the ball, but most of us were pulling like hell, and without much results, you know.
Sound like James's team there.
I like to cut to those fellas.
James loves those fellas ground hurling. Come here, we'll take a quick break, and after we'll talk a little bit more.
Coming home.
Now you're very welcome back to Terrace Talk here on Radio Kerry. Donal Barry, which is 8 o'clock this evening. Comments are flying in. This is great. Normally we have giving out about Kerry midfield and Kerry corner forwards. Now they're giving out about all fellas. It's totally wrong. Donal, what a lovely show this evening, and what great stories from your panel. The Kerry Senior Hurling Championship has been a very special part of sport in this county, and a very big well done for helping us relive some of those memories. It's great to hear Tony Behan, a fabulous leader on and off the pitch.
Oh.
And he didn't write it himself because he was sitting here with us, and we have him here in Alibi. The Kerry Senior Hurling Championship is so hard to win, with the teams so well able for each other on any given day. And I suppose that's fairly right, Paddy. On a given day, one team can take another team out fairly quickly.
Any team can win it.
Any team can win it. And that's what makes it hard to win too, of course, isn't it? Like you'll have a farm team, but you'll have a sneaky Lixnaw there, like back in the 80s, that will take a big fellow like Causeway out in a shot.
They were a good team.
Sure, they were only hanging around the place too.
They were like Abbeydorney and Causeway. They had a great goalkeeper in Johnny.
He was a good goalie. He was a brilliant goalie.
Good goalkeeper.
A great player.
He done any county in Ireland.
Yeah. Speaking of goalkeepers, Paddy, who were the good goalkeepers through the clubs at those times?
Apart from myself.
You were best.
You're number one.
Johnny Campbell was number one.
Was he?
I was a sub goalkeeper for Kerry for about 10 years. Johnny was the keeper. I was a selector. But it was an honour to be a sub goalkeeper team.
Wow.
Great goalie, yeah.
Was he that good?
He was brilliant.
Was he that good, was he?
He was brilliant.
He was brilliant, yeah.
He had a great hand. County in Ireland.
Yeah, he had a great hand.
Yeah.
And like when the ball went in, when it went in and you were around the square, all the backs had to do was keep them in out because the Johnny's ball in here.
Yeah.
And you want to watch him going, he better go out, but you want to watch him come back.
I remember playing against you one night.
Yeah. Tony.
And I was playing full forward. I never played full forward in my life, but I was in there that night. And Brendan Halloran was left corner. And every time the ball came in, Brendan Halloran came in and let fly. And nearly took off my head about 4 times. And I was saying, keep out! And eventually I said, a ball was coming in. I said, if Brendan Halloran is here, it's too bad. And I swung at the ball, and Johnny Conway came flying out overhead to catch the ball, hit him into the jaw and broke his jaw.
Oh.
I was very sorry. I didn't. I swear to God. No, Johnny.
Sorry, no, Tony.
I was. No. I was very sorry. I genuinely was. I mean, Johnny
that makes up for it. Like,
was a very nice fella, and you know.
You heard that, Paddy? He wasn't sorry. He was very sorry.
I was very sorry.
Very genuine.
No, it was Brendan Halloran's fault.
Yeah, he should have been there.
And he was staying with me.
Donal, the colours and the passion at a senior hurling final outshines anything that a football one can replicate. James, we spoke about it 1,000 times. There's something special about the senior hurling county championship final. We'll have the football one, and people will argue that it's better and this and that, but is it the tribalness, or is it because you're so close to each other, or you're so related, or is it just the passion to win it because it's so hard?
It's an North Kerry thing. When you go to any championship match there at the weekend, everyone in North Kerry hurling is there. Because they're watching each other, they're watching their own team maybe, or if it's not your own team, you're there watching the rest anyway. So a county final just brings everyone out. But most of those matches, I'll be there, probably all of them. The lads will probably be there, all of them. So we just go and watch each other. Just I don't know, it's just in case you miss something. I don't know, but it is like a tribal warfare, really.
Watching the neighbours.
But there are some great exhibitions of hurling as well. I remember being at a match that Crossy were playing in, and it was one of the days that Todd was on his game, and he was getting points from everywhere. You know, just any place he got the ball, it was over the bar, you know. And I remember a certain Crossy man on the sideline turning around to the Crossy people and saying, "Shouldn't that man be adored?"
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, some of them were. Donal, I remember a few years ago. Oh yes, Donal, I remember a few years ago managers like Eamon Cregan and Anthony Daly helping teams win county championships. But isn't it great to see Kerry managers doing so well now with clubs? Wow. So you had to sail the boat out to bring in a few. That's the end of the two of you.
It is.
I suppose, Don, look, it's like everything else. Look, you would never have profit inside your own parish.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And that's the way it is. Like, and no matter how well you played or how well well you did this or how well you did that. Like, if you're taking out your own players, they probably don't have the respect for you that they would have for an outside man coming in.
Yeah.
And
it's a fresh voice, I presume, anyway, first of all.
And plus the fact like that the man coming in, he does his job, does his training, he's into his car and he's out the gap.
Yes.
And the thing, there's no such thing as bickering and telling
he's not listening to it at Sunday
If it's a local fella, he's getting one player one day, he's probably getting the parents the next day and this thing. But the outside fella, he has complete respect and they don't know him, so they won't approach him in the same manner as they would approach a local guy. But it's probably unfortunate in that, look, we know they're not doing it for nothing. Yeah. We all know that. And it's probably money the clubs could do it and things like that. And how long can they keep doing it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, look, while it's in vogue, it's going to spread, and that's it. And you have to be, if you weren't in, you just won't progress. That's it.
Come here to me. You mentioned Myler. Obviously, Daly was there as well. What kind of character was he with Kilmoyley? I mean, how would
Which fella, Anthony or John Myler?
Well, John Myler's very serious man. But Anthony Daly, he rambled into Kilmoyley.
He was.
Can you remember him in the dressing room?
Of course. Yeah. It was just like, you're kind of awestruck at the time because he was this Anthony Daly, All-Ireland winning captain, and at the time he was after coming off the Clare job. They'd been beaten by Kilkenny in the All-Ireland final at that stage, and he kind of, as he said himself, he wanted somewhere not to hide, but like just to get out of Clare.
Why didn't he hide in Causeway, like?
Get out of Clare, really. And so he just wanted something fresh, something new. And the boys knew him from Corson. He's a big Corson man, like, and they were great friends with him, like Morris McKelligan and all the lads, and Brendan Mack and the lads, and they were talking to him and just said, just put it to him. And he even said to him afterwards himself, he's come over on the ferry, like, and it was like a breath of fresh air. Just he was away from, like Shawnee says, he wasn't in his own parish, he wasn't in his own backyard anymore. He was down with us, and whatever he could do with us, it was just.
What was he like the first night in the dressing room? I mean, he walks in the dressing room, you're all there in your Kilmoyley jerseys or whatever you have, or Man United jerseys, whatever you wear up there. No Man United jerseys. But like, what was the first team chat about? What did he say? Did he say we want to win a championship, or was it just a bit of fun, lads, or what?
No, it was quite clear. He was kind of nearly put to him first, really, that Anthony, you're down here to win the championship, that's it. Okay. And he kind of, he took it on board, and he kind of just maybe took a couple of weeks to get used to us, but by the time he got his stamp on the team, like, then really, because Lixnaw beat us the first year he was there in 2007.
And you had Cregan that year, had you?
We had Cregan that year. Yes, we had. I
remember the photograph was kind of cool. Cregan on one side and Daly on the other side.
Actually, Daly, I met him in Clonmel one day, and he said, he nearly destroyed my reputation. He so-and-so some Lixnaw. Because I think we beat him twice, I'd say, while he was.
We like Lixnaw beat us in 07. We won in 08 and 09. Then Lixnaw beat us in 10 again in the semi-final, I think. Yeah. So like at the time, that kind of was 4 years ahead with us.
We were his nemesis.
Yeah, it was. He always said it afterwards. Yeah. Only for Lixnaw had 4 no's.
Oh my God! So you took a 0 off the check at the end of it, did you?
Only for Lixnaw, Causeway with a 5 in a row. So we've done the.
They have a lot to answer for.
We've kept the other hurling clubs in the county.
You spoiled everything.
All the other clubs are smiling.
Abbeydorney 74 back again. Were you training the team?
Only when the trainer wasn't there.
I
was captain, and Mus Mahoney was the trainer.
Okay.
And on a few evenings when he wasn't there,
what was training like in 74? But what was it like in 74? I mean, did you run laps like?
We did lots of running around the field and sprints and that sort of thing. And as backs and forwards, as I said already, maybe we overplayed backs and forwards.
Did you have your own field in 74? Were you training somewhere?
We had in 74. I didn't have 71 at all. But it was really the GA, club that bought the field, that built the sports complex there. I remember we were all up putting up blocks and things like that. I don't know how somebody didn't get killed doing it, and how the place didn't fall down, but it's still there,
Still there.
And we had a bar and all in it, of course, which counteracted a lot of the training we were doing.
I'm sure the blocks were straight in
yeah. And in fact, if you were working in the bar, which I did a good bit of, if you were a volunteer worker like that, but it was very interesting to see people turning up for games. And if it was a rainy day, they might have had a runner bringing in the results of the game while they were inside swamping pints themselves. So these would be some of the mentors,
There was no score.
Yeah.
Right, James, Kilmoyley may be top of the pile, but
just the boat.
Ballyduff are still the best.
Oh,
harsh. You're after upsetting him now.
Sorry.
I can't believe, with all the fine hurlers, that Abbeydorney have produced in the last 50 years that we, so obviously he's an Abbeydorney man, have not produced a title since 74. Ballyduff, oh here we go, nearly scuppers that one as well, with an objection to the county board. Oh my God almighty, is there somebody out there who agrees with you?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, so it must be factual now that something like that.
The truth is bitter.
The truth is bitter. So it's a bitter lemon. Donal, will you please remember tonight Richie Purcell, Paddy Healy and Dennis Hegarty of Kilgarvan. We do a little bit of hurling back there too.
Yes.
They have 3 championships.
Yeah. 53, 55 or 6 or 57 or 8 or around then.
I remember when Lixnaw didn't have a senior team actually. Lixnaw didn't have a senior team in the early 70s, and they played Kilgarvan. Kilgarvan beat them. It was the Lixnaw senior team at the time, and Kilgarvan beat them in the county final. I'd say it was about 72, because Lixnaw won the intermediate championship then in 73, and then Lixnaw went senior, and actually I suppose Lixnaw they went to the semi-final senior championship in 74, and we won the minor championship in 74, and we won the intermediate championship in 74, and we won minor in 76, and Tony was saying there about Augie Morton. Augie actually played minor championship final against us. We played Ballyduff in the final. It was on in Abbeydorney pitch in 1974.
He object.
Lixnaw don't object.
No, actually he got 3 fabulous points from midfield. Augie did the same.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Must say.
He played colleges in their hurling as well.
Yeah, Augie was a good hurler, yeah.
That's amazing. Kilgarvan, yeah, absolutely, and Kinmere, of course, down there as well.
Must be
Fabulous
mentioned.
hurling. And somebody told me tonight, don't leave out Rathmore, because Rathmore got to a county final sometime back in 1930. You know, which North Kerry team Rob won off them back then.
Do you remember that one, Paddy?
They were in a county final when it was intermediate. It was in 84.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, but I do know how to read a comment. And this guy says, I remember Richard Gentleman from Kilmoyley. See him playing at championship matches and couldn't get over his skill. Christy Walsh was a magnificent player, always reliable. So that's obviously the Kilmoyley player. Richard Gentleman, do you remember him?
No, James played.
He was in my place for us. He was on the 4-row team. Yeah.
That's it, like.
No, great player. He was a super player for us. He was like Richard was probably what's happening now with a lot of sweep resistance and corner forwards and players dropping back. He did it before his time. He used to play corner forward for us and played a lot of hurling midfield, so he was super for us. Massive men around the middle for us to work rate and scores he got for us. He was a huge player for us in that 4-row team.
Huge player for. He keeps mentioning the 4-row. Jesus, sure, he's 5. He's 4 with one team and 1 with another team. Sure, you know.
I did myself for 7 together. And Tony, we beat between the 3 of us.
The best memory I have of 74 is the bonfire that night in the village. It was right in the middle of the crossroads, and there was a woman. I won't mention his name. A woman came up the road. She wouldn't pass. She said her cap was leaking petrol. But she was the wife of a guard, sergeant actually, and she must have contacted him in Tralee, and the fire brigade came out. And if they did a gentleman from Abbeydorney, Terrace Talk, he approached the fire engine and he said, if there is as much as one hose taken off that fire engine, there'll be mutiny in Abbeydorney. And that police said, pull in there, he said, and he can stand guard all night. They pulled in, and every one of them were pitched their own tapish too.
So, there's loads of comments coming, guys. The people are really listening now. Are you ready for a bit of criticism?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Waiting for it.
Give it back.
Give it back. She's coming in here. Well, first of all, we'll read the easy ones. A great programme on hurling this evening. Well done, Donal. Didn't know you knew that much about hurling. Well, to be honest, I know nothing about hurling. James McCarthy educated me some way out of fear mostly, but I'm getting better. Hi, Donal. Enjoying the chatting to the lads. Best of luck to all the teams in the County Hurling Championship. It's great as a neutral here to hear so much passion and cracking games of hurling. That's Charles out there in North Kerry as well. And here we go. Ooh, are you ready? Lixnaw, you're okay. Kilmoyley, you're grand. God almighty, you've really ruffled the crowd around the corner here tonight out in Rock Street. How can Abbeydorney say they won a county final? Here we go, Paddy. Keep the seatbelt on, will you? When Sachs got a point and the umpire signalled it wide, when it was a foot inside the post.
That was
Wrong game.
I could come back to 68.
Wrong game.
68, tell him.
That was against Crusher.
Against Crusher.
There we go.
against Crotta.
Tear that one up.
Austin Sacks fan, go back.
Go back into his net.
Got the wrong. Go back to your list. The wrong game, wrong year, wrong everything. God, and the Lixnaw, I knew before you knew.
Yeah.
I knew as well.
Oh, you knew as well.
He was holding that.
It'd be nice to change.
Dingle also got to a county final, so there we go. It's not all North Kerry. This is probably going back to
We Dingle fellas won championships.
Oh yeah, she stole the best.
And don't just to confirm it, I don't think 1 point would have made a difference between Abbeydorney and the Stacks. It was 3-8 to 1-4 with the score.
It wrecked the momentum of the game at the time. Come here, let's go back and do a little bit more. I suppose, James, we're talking about the passion and leading into it and the whole lot. And we're trying to get, I suppose, an idea from listening to you. We have an idea what it means to you and people coming in, but what does it mean to your families? I mean, I go around the table and I suppose at the time you get huge family support from your parents and your friends and your neighbours and the whole lot, but what was it like going back with number one?
I suppose it's going back to my dad now. He had more of a love of hurling than I did when I was young lad, and he lived for my achievements. And it was after he died, and it was just a brilliant thing they brought back to me. And it nearly kind of bring a tear to your eye at times. He kind of, like everyone said to him, "Did you win anything when you played hurling?" And he didn't. He played in the lean years, we call it, from 72s up to 80s, when he saw everyone else win. He says, "No, I never won a thing." He says, "Maybe one knockout championship, but I have the next best thing." He says, "I have a son who won 8." Oh. So that's huge praise from here, and that was, he never said that to me, but it was someone else he said it to, and it came back to me, and I was saying, it's kind of like, you kind of stop you in your tracks and you say, well, that's what it meant to him. Mm-hmm. To me, hurling, I was doing it, I was in the middle of it, I was in control of what I could do. He was a supporter on the sideline. He could control nothing. He was just watching his son, like Shawnee now, watching James playing. Like, it's very, very hard. Luckily, I have 4 daughters, and I'm kind of mad on the sideline, as you know yourself, and I'm kind of always pushing them and telling them kind of matches, but I feel nearly as much pride when they win. My daughter won all the minor there a few weeks back, and I was absolutely delighted. I was jumping the wire to get into the field after the game. They won it. Like, it's just such a different feeling. Mm-hmm. Huge.
Sean, you can come at that story both ways, I suppose. I mean, you're the son of a man who won 10. Was that discussed in the house? Did you know that, or growing up, or because he was Crotta, they weren't regarded as
He was Crotta, living down Lixnaw, so those medals didn't count. But I suppose that when I was young, it was hurling. It was everything, because up in the morning, the hurling ball out in the field all day long, and it was at that time. My father was selected with the Kerry hurling team for about 20 years, and I went to a good few of their games. But rather than have one of the players up the country, my idol at the time was Declan Lovett, because I thought he was a fabulous player, and I saw him playing against good teams, and like, he was as good as they came. But I used to be up and down the field when I came home from the matches. I was Declan Lovett. Ball stuck on the hurley, wouldn't leave it off. I was Declan Lovett. And I suppose when you have that, like, you have that kind of a drive and an ambition, and if you have an idol, you want to try and emulate him and go as close as you possibly could to that standard. And then my brother Christy, he played with Lixnaw, and it was all hurling. It was all hurling in the house, and like football, even though I played football with CBS and things like that was in with Fenwick, but hurling was the game, and you could go out in the field every evening and you could improve yourself as a hurler. You could never actually get to the top of it, because there was always some bit of trickery that you could do, and especially then, like, if you're my size and you come up against big guys,
6'4".
Yeah, like every game you went out, like, you had to outsmart them, you had to outplay him, you had to outpace him, and you had to get the scores. And like, for a forward, it's hard to do it with like when the guy is a lot bigger than you have to be a stepper. Look, when the ball's at the other side of the field, you have to be thinking of your moves. You can't just wait, because you can't wait. You can't have it as a 50-50 situation. You know that you have to get there first. You have to get that ball in your hand first. And that's why if you're smaller, your touch has to be better, because he can make the mistake and he can put his body in and he can get the ball back. When you're light, you can't put the body in, so your first touch has to be good, and you have to get the ball the minute that ball is available. You have to grasp it. But this was, look, it all goes back to the fact that when you have the stuff for the game, you always knew what you would have to do, and it was hurling, and you did it. The ball was off the wall, you broke the pane of glass, you did everything, but it was the ball. And look, I used to be sick on a Sunday evening, because there was one evening you couldn't go to the field, there'd be nobody there. And every other evening you could go, and going to the pitch, and you had the fellas that played with the 1966 team, like they were still in the pitch when I was only a young fella going, but you could go onto the pitch and shoot for a couple of scores while you were there and you were on for an hour before that. But the minute they arrived, you knew your place, back behind the goals, follow the ball for the boys. But you were delighted to be there and pucking the ball out to them.
Yeah, and of course you were watching the team and the tradition and the whole
that's
sleeping up the pitch.
And to see the thing, like we had been looking, we wanted to win a championship medal, and we hadn't won one for 29 years, as I say, coming into 83. So, like, if it had gone another year, it would have been harder again. And, like, the monkey was getting heavier on the back the whole time. But we were lucky, didn't like that when we did win one, we came back, we beat the semi-final in 84, and we came back, we won again in 85. But that 85, you got a lot of minded teams coming after that then, and we were probably the catalyst for a lot of those fellas to play the game. And then the Paul Galvins and the Cardins, the Galvins, the Mike Conways, all that gang, they all came after us to say, and they knew the crowd that came after them, they want to emulate them. So look, it's this wheel is going around the whole time, but success definitely breeds success, because since 83, like, we have won 7, whereas prior to that we'd only won 2.
God, you're talking up your numbers now big time, aren't you?
Well,
must have won nothing before.
We're trying to match James here, but sure, we can't do it.
But if you all join together, you probably have enough of them. Come here, Paddy, did you break many panes of glass growing up?
I did. At the gable of the house, we'd be practicing. But like that.
Where did your love of the game come from? Was it family? Was it?
His father was a very good hurler.
He was
playing with Abbeydorney, one of the best.
He was compared to Chris Ring one time.
Tell us more.
Well, I never seen him playing, like, but he used to hurl with me. We would a Rika Turf, like, and he'd have me against the Rika Turf. He wouldn't be hitting in easy balls, like. But and he'd be telling you how to take a free, you know, for taking to us, we'd hop with the foot in front of him, and he'd be telling all them things, which we didn't do.
And do all those things, I suppose, later in life, you look back, they're fond memories to have. I mean, you know, you know, that's where you get your first love. I mean, we're talking about fathers and
the only thing we had at that time was hurling, like, that's all we had. Yeah. You know, I mean, 17 or 18, 19-year-old now, they're after the pub. We didn't see a pub inside of a pub, like.
Rika Turf and a hurl.
Rika Turf and a hurl, and you'd be glad to get on the team, then you'd be fighting to get on the team. And, you know, and he was disappointed if we wouldn't get on the team.
Now, Tony Behan, I'm going to embarrass you now. It's not This Is Your Life or anything crack like that, but there's one man at this table who has a proper, real All-Ireland medal. Oh. Please say yes.
I don't know, mine a football medal, yeah.
Here we go, huh? I hear that?
60.
Yeah, and I was told that, funny enough, because I was travelling around South Kerry there and met a guy from Valencia. And there was a guy on the team for Valencia, George Corn. He played midfield.
Centre field, yeah.
Centre field, absolutely.
Yeah.
And no, it wasn't him, obviously. It was on with his family. But that went back to the conversation about hurling and the whole lot. And of course, everything is associated. But that was a fine football team that you landed yourself on.
Well, I went to St. Brendan's in Killarney. So, you know, in St. Brendan's you played football. I played a lot of football. We got to the All-Ireland Colleges final in my year as well. We were beaten by 2 points, I think, by medals in the All-Ireland final. Shouldn't have been beaten at all, like, but we were, you know. And I mean, that's one of the terrible regrets of my life, you know. I mean, losing a colleges final is horrendous, because you're with the same guys for 5 years. 6 now, I suppose, lots of them. But the comradeship is enormous. But we were very short in players. We had 15, lucky to have 15. And when people started getting injured, then we were losing out there. But we lost the final anyway. We thankfully won the minor final afterwards. Yeah.
And speak to me about winning a football. Being from Abbeydorney, the heart of hurling and the whole lot.
Well, it's hard enough to get on the team if you're from Abbeydorney.
I was going to say, that was my point exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, now we're in a situation where we have the likes of Evan Boyle, who's a fantastic footballer and a hurler, and he's captain of the Kerry Mile. But
it was certainly a lot easier to get on if you were from further north to North Kerry, or if you were from West Kerry. than it was to
They
get
had
in.
the Irish there.
If you were from the hurling area, you were in trouble. Now Declan Lovett got on actually in the same position the year before. This was 62. Mine was 63. He was I played with Declan in college, again in St Brendan's. He was 2 years ahead of me in school.
But how did it go down in hurling land that out of the blue you had a football?
Well, I was playing hurling at home as well. I played more football though, a lot more football in my younger days than in hurling.
Oh, we were shutting down Paddy.
I usually I played with my dog, and I'll tell you,
play football.
he was the only member of the family who played with me. Except that now James plays in the hurling team.
Yeah.
He was the first cousin of mine.
Yeah.
And he was a great hurler, much better hurler than I was.
Well, at least you played football with the dog up in Abbeydorney.
yeah. He was a fabulous dog for the job. Yeah.
Good stuff. Let's move on a small bit. A comment from a guy looking for Paddy to answer the question. The rest of you probably either take too long or wouldn't give the truth. Right? What was it like playing without helmets?
Oh yeah.
Did you even know?
We never dreamed of helmets.
Did you not? When was the first time you put... Tony Behan is showing me his head. There's a bit of a hole.
Small hole.
James, did you have a helmet?
Yeah, we played. Yeah, we had, but there was no face guard.
No face guard.
So you were the oldish helmets that were kind of cool at the time.
They were, but at least the top of the head was safe.
Yeah.
But there was no face guard that time.
Okay, James, you were both sides of that, were you?
I was. Unfortunately, I have a nose to prove it. It's just been
The
broken.
face guard didn't come in time.
It's only they come up through and say
2010.
Was it 2010?
I think Ballyduff were the first team in Kerry to win County Championship with all helmets.
Compulsory helmets. Like.
Compulsory helmets, that's right, yeah.
You could wear the face cap if you wanted to, but we wouldn't. We probably didn't. Just the helmet, that was it.
Oh, somebody told me that Timmy Weir wore a helmet in 74.
Possibly. I wore a helmet in 71, I'd say, even. This happened to me in a minor match. And I was much better hurler before that, and I had better sight before that, and I reckon I reckon I was more intelligent before that. But we were playing a game in Ardfert, and I was marking a fella that I'd gone to school with, who shall be nameless, and he had been a bit of a... we had a kind of a feud going in primary school, and myself and this fellow, we were kind of leaders in our respective areas, but he was way stronger than I was. But I went to St Brendan's, and I had played Foon Cup football that year, and I developed a lot. So we were playing Kilmoyley. He was playing with Kilmoyley, and
we're narrowing it down.
At the beginning of the game, he arrived down marking me. And I was feeling great. And I was nearly bigger than him at this stage. And I said, Jesus, you're going to earn your money tonight. So the first ball came in. He had exactly the same thing in mind. And the next one came, he caught it. And he was going to hit it. But Jack Condon came in and struck him. And he turned to Jack, and then he pulled, and I was on the ground. And I got to the top of the head, and the next time I woke with an Abbeydorney jersey tied around my head in Morris Fuller's car heading for St. Catherine's.
So look at that in Abbeydorney.
Split.
Wow.
Yeah. Concussed, split.
Jeez.
The only time I ever got injured anything.
Paddy, injuries like that, did that happen a lot?
It happened in 84.
Go on, please tell us in 6 minutes or less.
I'd be shot below in Essex Park, playing Cratta. I was unconscious for 3 hours. The ambulance had to come into the field to take me away.
Wow.
And I gave 3 days in hospital.
3 years.
What year?
84.
He remembers the year and you're such
84.
Were you in goal?
We played Abbeydorney in the final 2 weeks after.
Were you back in time for the Ballyduff game?
I was. Well, I had to. They couldn't get no one to replace me.
But after my particular injury, after that injury, I had to wear a helmet, but there were no helmets. And Paddy's brother-in-law, Paul Bunnan,
That's right,
in Causeway, had a helmet. So if Causeway weren't playing, I borrowed Paul's helmet for all the games after that.
That helmet won a lot of matches.
And it was great. It was great.
Only for Causeway.
Yeah. That was Paul Bunnan's.
we looked after them all, but
But you're great neighbours, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, he arranged it.
Yeah. Would that helmet have been given to Ballyduff or Kilmoyley fellas, though?
he would.
Oh,
Good natured.
Well, I would give a helmet to any. Well, I didn't have a helmet to give. But if I had it, I'd give it to fella.
That's the thing about knockout clubs, don't you see? Without each other, there's nothing. We hate each other, but without each other, we don't have anything. There is no knockout hurling without. You have to have each other. Love each other, hate each other. We have to coexist. It's kind of symbiotic relationship, really.
Sean Flaherty, another quick question for you that came in. Team talks. Who were the people in the dressing room that gave good team talks? It's now one in it, because I presume you weren't in any other dressing room.
No, I wasn't. I suppose no dressing room. Like we had leaders on the team as well. Like but Frank Thornton was the main man, as I said. Like Frank was the trainer, and he was the fella that we looked up to because he had that way with him. Like some fellas can get the best out of players, and he was one of those. Other fellas might be great trainers and things like that, but they still won't get the best. And he was one of those fellas, as I say, he had that way with him. He could cajole fellas that needed to be cajoled. If a fella needed a kick up the backside, he could give it to him as well. But he could do it, and he'd get away with it because fellas had respect for him. And I suppose basically, look, the guy that's over the team, he has to be respected by the players, because if he isn't respected, you're going no place, because they won't perform for you. And he was one of those fellas, like, we would have climbed the roof for him, like, you know what he asked us to do, we did it. But likewise, like, if we had a problem, we went to him. If any fella did need a little look, if you said, look, I can't train tonight, I'm not feeling, no problem, if that's the way. Now, you wouldn't get away with that with more fellas that time, because to the case of, look, you're doing 15 rounds of the field. I know that I used to say to him, look, Frank, I'll do 20 sprints more, but I can't do rounds of the field. And which like a lot of fellas just can't do rounds of the field. But I was with other trainers then, and you had to do 5 or 10, and it only weakened the guys that wasn't carrying weight. And like he'd say to me, look, no, do a half round of the field there, he said, and I do maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 extra sprints. But he was the kind of fella like that would allow you to do something like that.
Paddy, Causeway 4 wins. Who was the big speaker in the dressing room at the time? What's he? What did Morris bring to the game?
Morris took over the pilot clubs. Like, he was Kilmoyley, he had Lixnaw. He trained for Newton All Ireland junior football. He was brilliant, like, and he was a good man to give a pep talk before the game. And the players respected him, like we were talking a while ago about outside trainers having, the players having more respect for him. Everyone had respect for Morris, whatever he had in him, I don't know, but they had respect for him, like.
And
he proved it.
Tony, how important is that role to have? Kind of, we were talking about managers and trainers, and I suppose back in the day it was just the guy in charge of the team, or picked the team, or he helped out. Now there's back rooms of 20 fellas and the whole lot, but the essence is still the same. To get that connection with the player is so important.
It is absolutely. And I remember doing a few speeches before games, and an interesting one was our own curate at home at the time, Father McKenna. Father McKenna was a fabulous priest and a tremendous man for Abbeydorney. And before the match, he said to me, he said, you go in there, he said, and tell him, and he said, and you can, use a few F's.
Holy words, yeah.
What he didn't, and I mean, it was surprising, like, coming from him, What he didn't know was that I was using a whole encyclopedia of expletives before every match. And the reaction was the funniest part if you were giving it.
Yes.
Because some fellas, like Sir Jack again, Jack Condon, Jack would be, when he began the speech, he'd be gone out to the roof, like. He'd be clinging off the roof there. He'd be so wound up. But then you looked up at Brendan Keane, and he looked at you and was just saying, you're some kind of a fool or something. So you got different reactions. Brendan, like, was a purist. It was hurling. It wasn't, he didn't like fellas getting the ball rived up and mullocking into him. He didn't like that at all. Of course,
everybody's different. Every player is different. Of course, and I suppose it goes back to the management of your body. But
can I say something about Abbeydorney before we finish, though? You've probably read Forging a Kingdom.
Yes.
Right. And you read Richard McKelliget's
his history book, yeah.
You know that the first hurling match that was played in Ireland under the auspices of the GAA was played in a place called a Hamor.
Okay.
And a Hamor is in Abbeydorney parish. I don't know where the match was played, but it was between Abbeydorney and Callahan against Killourie and Ratu. And it was played just after the GAA had been founded, and when Cusack came to to Tralee to object to the match and to boycott the game that was taking place up in the park at the time. Interesting thing, you could probably get him to talk to you about this.
Another day.
And of course, the first championship
I'm so played out
match-
from hurling now.
the first championship match that was played in Kerry was played between Abbeydorney and Ballyduff. It was probably a follow-on from this game, and it was played in
No helmets.
no helmets. I think there were actually 25 aside in it, but Abbeydorney won by one.
A disputed
to a
point. Yeah. Oh my God. Fair play. Well, listen, guys, it's been massive fun. I have to wrap up, otherwise we'll be here all night and day. And you see the guy inside here now? You can blame him. He's from Kilmoyley. He doesn't want any of this crack going on. The sound man. But listen, it's been great fun. Very quick question, and literally 15 seconds each. Do you miss hurling, Paddy?
Yeah.
What do you miss most about it?
I'd love to go back playing hurling. I even said it yesterday after watching the hurling games.
Yeah.
I would love to go back playing hurling again.
Yeah. James, you're still playing, so we want to ask you, but do you still play a bit? Do you bring out the hurling puck around?
I don't know, but looking at the pitches nowadays, I'd love to be playing now, because the lively pitch, when we played, the pitches were dead, they were heavy, they weren't conducive to good hurling up to speed or anything like that, whereas now it's all about first touch and speed, and the pitches are primarily responsible for that, I'd say. So it would be lovely to play now, yes.
To suit a man of your stature now.
That's what I was hoping it would do.
Good stuff. Well, listen, guys, thanks very much. And of course, you've been listening this evening to Paddy Walsh at Causeway, who's won 5, one with Abbeydorney and 4 with Causeway, and of course the one with Abbeydorney is worth about 10, because they only win them every 60 years, so that's a big one. Tony Behan, thanks very much. Delighted to have you on this evening.
We're going very well this year now. We've won the North Kerry League and the County League, and they're playing good hurling.
You're dead right, James. They win a league, and this is what turns out. Yeah, and you've got a very handy group. James McCarthy told you as well, if you were listening to us. The Senior County Championship, of course, it kicks off Friday. Ballyhige, of course, are in action against Ballyduff on Friday evening, the 16th, at 7:30 in Austin Sack Park. And then on Saturday, Abbeydorney are taking on Dr. Crooks. Ian O'Mahony in charge, my God, a big manager and a big team. And that's 5 p.m. in Austin Sack Park. And Kilmoyley, most people's favourites, apart from James's, we're taking on Causeway, the champions, on Saturday as well at 7 p.m. in Austin Sack Park. And listen, get along and watch those games and support your team. Guys, it was great fun this evening. We might actually do something like this again. You never know, we might be able to find some more people that can do it. We take a break.